Welcome back, Red Spotters, and the show here. This is an audio commentary for the movie Captain Marvel. I'm Alexis Soto, joined by David Francisco and Stan Lee from the dead. Here you are watching him with this wonderful montage opening sequence. So yes, this is our wonderful audio commentary on this Captain Marvel, which we've been meaning to do for quite some time. Unfortunately, it's literally been delayed by about a year, but better late than never, it seems like, and I'm so grateful that David is here to talk about this. This is going to be an interesting commentary because it's not necessarily a film that is that well loved. I think like is a good word for it, but loved is a different thing altogether, or maybe the lack of it. But just real quick, I did do my homework this time. I went and listened to the audio commentary for this movie that's available on Disney Plus if you want to listen to it. Although it really isn't all that interesting, to be honest with you. About the directors, Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck. And Stan Lee actually passed away while the movie was being edited. So I think the idea came about giving Stan Lee a tribute, which we just saw right now in the opening of the movie, which was nice and I think well-deserved.
Yeah.
For many people, that this may be the emotional highlight of the movie. As far as caring about anything, really. So this is interesting. This particular movie and kind of how it's aged, or maybe I feel like it never really was that well liked. We'll get into at least how we feel about it in a minute, or I'll get to David in a bit. But at least for me, when I first saw the film, it was like, okay, whatever to me. The subsequent times that I've seen the movie, I think I've liked it a bit better, to the point where I'm like, okay, it's good, decent across the board, and I like a lot of aspects that they play with here, from, Brie Larson, the little bits of personality that we get from her. Of course, we have Talos. There's some wonderful scenes with Lashana Lynch and Brie Larson that are quite wonderful, but there are issues with this movie that, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is practically 22 movies in, that it's becoming apparent. And there are even further issues, perhaps even more so. The fact that the movie is bland is, I think, unfortunately becoming a little bit more normalized with Marvel movies these days, and that's really sad. But there is, I feel, kind of an identity crisis with Carol Danvers. It's not really a character people really know. And I think we'll get into how sparingly she was used in the Avengers movie, which is kind of indicates some issues with the character overall. So needless to say, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
There really is. So David, let's get over to you. What do you think?
No, when I first saw it, I was just, I enjoyed it. There were some cool action scenes. There were some fun moments with Brie Larson, Samuel Jackson, and some of the other characters. The movie didn't really find a good balance of showing when she needed to be emotionless and when to show some emotion. So right here in the beginning, you get this back and forth a bit with her, and that's Talos, right?
No, that's not Talos. So this is the actor Jude Law playing. Oh God, I don't even know the character's name, to be honest with you. They'll say it right here, but it's Jude Law you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, with him and they had a cool back and forth and everything, and it was interesting the way they started this movie with him basically telling her control your emotions, they're weighing you down, and all that. And that was another thing that the movie didn't really do well, is towards the end, where she kind of brings out all of her emotions. I mean, we'll get to it when we get to it, but yeah, it's just I wouldn't say a mess. It just kind of, I mean, it could be with the identity crisis that you mentioned. I never really understood what people mean by that.
I'll explain what I mean.
It.
Well, I don't. The main issue is that I don't know Carol. That's what I mean by identity crisis. I feel like there are attempts to create a character with Carol Danvers, but I'm just trying to ask myself, okay, so who is Carol? Okay, she is, she perseveres. She always gets back up. She can be funny. She's kind. You just kind of, I don't know, at least I walked away with this kind of distance with her. And that is part of the design of the movie is, and I feel like this may be kind of the root of all the problems, is the decision to make her, for most of the movie, forget who she really is. And I think in several instances, not only does it fail the character, but I'm not even sure it was well worth it for what they were doing with this movie. Let's backtrack a bit and let's talk about where we are right now here.
Yeah.
The opening of the movie, I really enjoyed. Yeah. I enjoyed mostly because this is new. We've never seen Hala before. We've never seen the Kree Empire like this. So this admittedly is a new corner of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You have Star Force here. The Kree, we knew that we were going to be doing this whole Kree versus Skrull war. Admittedly, though, they did do a brilliant twist with that I don't think anybody saw coming, and I think it was really well done in terms of how that was executed. With the Kree and the Skrulls, the kind of switcheroo they have here. But this particular part of the movie is, in some ways, kind of the best because we're on a different setting. We're in space. You know, that's... So it kind of is... Not that it's like the feel of Guardians of the Galaxy, but it is another part of that universe. Yeah. And one of the common mistakes that I think these kind of superhero movies do is that when you start off in an interesting, completely unseen area of a large universe, instead of keeping the movie in that locale, you go right back to Earth. And do the same thing that we've seen done dozens of times. And one of the things that I picked up from the audio commentary from Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, who, by the way, look, this is no disrespect to them. I think they're perfectly adequate directors, especially for this. This is the biggest film that they've had to do. They also did write the screenplay for the movie, which... maybe that's not their thing to do, quite honestly, although I'm not really sure how much free reign they were given from Kevin Feige. But there was this suggestion, I feel, earlier on. In fact, it may have been in this sequence right here. So we have actually a terrific sequence with Star Force trying to... I think rescue one of their own here from the Skrulls or from something else here. Yeah. And they were saying in the commentary track that this was purposely limited in terms of how long it was. Now, see, what they're about to say makes sense from a pacing standpoint, but it also just flies in the face of common criticisms of movies like these, as I'm just, trying to lay out here. So they say that they shortened as much as they possibly could, especially they took a lot out of this action sequence because we just needed to get to Earth faster. And I understand that for the movie you've designed. So that isn't the problem. The problem is that you've designed it to be that way.
Yeah.
You know, that's the issue here is we've had enough, I think, Marvel movies that are revolved around Earth. Now, because Carol Danvers is from Earth, you have to have it at some point, right?
Yeah.
But that may not even be the detriment of the movie. It's just a common thread that we see in a whole bunch of like Marvel movies where you could spend a large amount of time in places like the Quantum Realm, for example, and Ant-Man and the Wasp, and you don't.
No, that is a really dumb idea, honestly, because I think everyone agreed that once she kind of gets to Earth, the movie starts to really slow down a bit. and I get what they were trying to do. They wanted to kind of I guess maybe build up who she was on Earth, build up some of the relationship you see with her friend, or maybe just try to get as much screen time to Samuel L. Jackson or something. I don't know. And I can understand that, but I feel like depending on what was going on in space, I feel like they could have taken a lot more time of implementing that part of, control your emotions and all that. So that seems like that really sounds like a dumb idea, honestly.
And speaking of that whole control your emotions, that was something I wanted to comment on that you had brought up before, because there is a whole thing. I feel that there's a subtext there to where how Jude Law is constantly, and then all of the Kree are, for the plot standpoint, telling her to keep her emotions in check because they don't want her to break free from the restraint that she has that would set off her full potential of her power. That's what, at least how I took it, is that they're afraid that if she gets way too overpowered, they'll lose control of her. But the subtext to that is, it's a common, trope now that, women, especially in America, maybe in general, are, perceived as overly emotional creatures and are told to keep their emotions in check. And great, but you don't really do anything at all with that. Yeah. And what I also noticed in the commentary, this entire subtext that is brought up repeatedly, Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck didn't even mention it at all in the commentary.
Well, that's honestly because they didn't really do much to kind of build up to the moment where she finally let's go of her emotions, let's hallucinate anything. Because really it's just the beginning part where he tells her to control it, and then
at the end,
I don't know. Yeah, at the end, really. So that's why I feel like if they stayed in space, you could have a lot more scenes with Jude Law and her, and kind of just build up that he's getting annoyed of losing her emotions or something.
Yeah.
And just kind of show how much she does think that she is messing up because she can't control them. So yeah, it's just, again, the movie it really fails in that part, and it sucks though, because there's a moment in the end, I'll talk about it when we get to it, that I really enjoyed, but a lot of people didn't like. And I think a part of it is because they didn't really build up to it right.
Yeah. There's so much going on already. Before we get into a whole, this is not going to be a crap fest, because at the end of the day, and this may be my controversial take, I enjoy this movie. Actually, there's nothing in here that makes me groan, I guess, except for the annoyances that I'm already kind of used to. I think it's a perfectly fine movie. If that's, I think that's the best thing I can say about it. But there are glaring issues. But yeah, the visual effects are stunning. I mean, that's where I don't think it fails. The makeup with the scrolls is amazing. I think that looked fan-fucking-tastic. And you know what? Yeah. Given that this is one of the weaker Marvel movies, I think that there are some of the strongest acted scenes, especially when we get to Lashana Lynch's character. I think of Monica Rambeau. The dynamic with her and Carol Danvers, I think, is really strong. So there are some good pluses, I think, that are sprinkled throughout the movie. And that may be a little bit annoying, considering that there was something there in this movie, but it just, I feel like it's a movie in search of a voice, you know? And you could have maybe had that with the whole subtext of like women being perceived as overly emotional. By the way, there's also something being laid down here about Carol and how she's been treated her entire life. And I think it's trying to suggest, well, because she's a girl and she is constantly underestimated because of her gender and the sexism that she had to face growing up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, if you will. But it kind of like with Black Panther, it's just there at the surface and it leaves it there and then doesn't really explore that. And I feel that's just a missed opportunity when, of course, you consider the fact that this is Marvel's first female-led superhero movie. So automatically you're comparing this with Wonder Woman, which to a lot of people who the key demographic of that movie were very much emotionally moved by that movie.
Yeah.
And in this case, there are things that it's like, I think virtue signaling to, but it's not pulling those like subtexts together and making it a part of the character. And it's surprising because it's right there. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I wanted to mention that I actually really like this sequence just because I like... this is Talos, isn't it?
Yeah.
The scroll?
Yes.
Yeah, it's right there. I see it. I have subtitles on. Yeah, I like this part just because the way they use to kind of give a bit background to the character, but also like the commentary with Talos going like, "What the fuck is this? What are we watching? Do we have the right person?" And then this part right here, like, kind of like I guess rewinding the memory and just going back and forth. Like it's really, I really like that sequence.
No, yeah, that's why I'm saying that there are parts in the movie that have, I think, really good sequences. I liked the sequence very much so, in large part because of Talos. He is my favorite character in this movie. I think this is my favorite Ben Mendelsohn performance in years. And I love it because we all think that Ben Mendelsohn is going to be playing the exact same character he plays in all of the movies. I think it was done the worst in Ready Player One. That one was just like beyond parody, I feel, at that point. But in this one, they use it. I think this is where I think it's kind of brilliant, where they make a turn, and the bad guy that you expect to be a bad guy, the guy that always plays a bad guy, ends up being the good guy here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love Talos. Mendelsohn's great.
Yeah, no, I liked him too. Although there is one little problem, what they did with the character, and have I said this? No, never mind. There's like one little problem, and I'll get to it once we.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be in this part right here. I'll just say it then. Basically, like they really made him they really showed him as a villain in this scene.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like the dialogue that he's given and the way that he performs it, like it really seems like, oh yeah, I'm the big bad guy. I don't know how to explain it, but like he does sound threatening. He does sound like he's manipulating her or anything, instead of just kind of like showing that it is a misunderstanding, basically. Right.
Yeah.
So that's one little complaint, but I don't know if that's like the directing or the writing or anything. I mean, it's on both sides of like there's some weird things going on.
I think that was partly Mendelsohn hamming it up, and then also him being directed to, because they want to preserve the twist. That's what I would think was the reason why it was done that way.
Yeah, maybe.
They want to catch you off balance, because by this you wouldn't expect him to be a good guy. So that was kind of the point of it, although there may be some inconsistency there. I didn't really pick up too much on it, but I understand perhaps if that's what it is. But oh my God, the makeup.
Yes.
I'm so glad they used fucking makeup here. You know, that's one of the things, is that the MCU has a tendency, I've mentioned this in all of the commentaries, to rely too much on blue screen, green screen. And they do it well, you know, but this looks so real.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, we're about to have a moment here that I wanted to bring up, and this is key to this ongoing discussion of Carol's character. So
Mm-hmm.
she is about to have a moment here where she breaks free, I feel, of... Actually, no, one of the squirrels growls at her, and then she growls back, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that was like actually one of the few moments of personality. And I remember like that was one of the few moments that stuck out to my mind after having seen it initially, because you see, this is fun, but this also felt right, even though that we're giving like small glimpses of that. Well, that was by design. I have this here. This is directly from Bowden and Fleck on the commentary. It's a good thing I listened to it, because this is actually helping a lot to get a little bit of the mindset behind why these decisions were made. So the moment of Bree screaming at the scroll was actually improvised on the set at Ryan Fleck's suggestion. So this wasn't scripted. It was just, you know what? Let's try this.
Okay, that's funny. That's actually cool.
I mean, it's cool, right? But it also, I
Yeah.
feel, is a little bit of a ding on them, because why wasn't this scripted? Why isn't there any personality to her?
Yeah.
So I go on here. I have notes here I'm reading from, just, to be clear from that. So this was one of the few moments of Okay, so they say in the commentary that this was one of the few moments of personality, and it wasn't even in the script. So they admitted while talking about this moment that, so here, Bowden implies that the little moments of personality where she says that pops from Carol, just the small moments. So she says that when she has moments like these, like that growl, from a plot standpoint, that's her kind of breaking her humanity, cracking through the brainwashing of the Kree. So that's kind of that's the perspective they had with why this made sense, right? But it also suggests to me that Carol was intended to be written with as little personality as possible.
See, now if this was clearly supposed to be a big part of her character arc, so that's so dumb, because again, they didn't find the right balance between having like when she needed to be emotionless and when she like wanted to show emotion. So, oh my god, what the hell?
Well, look, this is actually interesting, because another one of these common issues with the movie was people weren't entirely sure, not just with how to feel about Carol as a character, but they were a little unsure about Brie Larson's performance. And that struck a lot of people, because this is Academy Award-winning Brie Larson. She never turns in a bad performance. She's an amazing actor, by all indications. And so from what I'm reading off of the commentary from Bowden and Fleck is that not only was the script giving her nothing to do with what this character was, in fact, it was telling her to basically be a blank slate. And the direction that she was given on set was only reinforcing for her to be as cold and distant as possible. And I just feel that was a grave mistake, because I think the end result was people don't really know what to make of you.
Actually, that's actually kind of interesting, because I remember when Avengers Endgame, wait, was it Endgame or
Endgame? She was in Endgame, right?
Oh, I can't remember which. Well, I can't remember which one. Well, it was probably an interview with the Captain Marvel movies, but she shot Avengers Endgame first.
Wait, David, real quick, I want to make sure to say this, and not to throw you off. This guy right here is actually, he's an actual security guard. He's the head of Marvel Studio security at the lot that he was at. And this is his first audition, and he got this role. So I'm really happy for him. It's one of the fun facts about this movie. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh yeah, but so she shot Avengers Endgame first, and that's like her first
That's
steps
right.
in
You're right.
becoming this character.
Yeah.
And she said in interviews that shooting that first movie kind of gave her an idea who her character should be. So now it kind of makes sense that like she was the one that's really trying to bring out emotion basically into this movie. You know what I mean?
I understand you. And, that is such a crucial part of this is, ironically enough, that her parts of Endgame, which, of course, were sparingly, she was using that movie sparingly, and people seem to be surprised that she was barely in the movie because of how much that she was hyped up from that post-credit scene of Infinity War. But regardless, she filmed those scenes first with the Russos. But the Russos were also given nothing to work with. Like, I don't know if... Because I have to believe that Russo's, Marcus and McFeely were given a script of Captain Marvel to at least get No, actually, you know what? In fact, I think if I recall, there wasn't a script written when they were writing Captain Marvel's role in Endgame. Wow.
Yeah.
That just seems counterproductive, doesn't it? Like you're giving not only the actor, but the creators little to nothing to work with. And I feel like the Russos kind of had no choice but to kind of use her like at all, because who is this person?
No, I mean, I think it was, for me, it was obvious from the beginning that she wasn't going to be in it that much.
Yeah.
Because who was it? Kevin Feige, he said that she was going to be the most powerful Avenger. Well, at least at that point, he said she was going to be the most powerful Avenger. And and the writers knew right away, like, we can't use her because the movie's about the original cast, not someone else.
And we've talked about how the Russos, kind of their go-to in all of these movies is they go to characters and they cripple them, because if they're at full power, then all of these problems would be solved. Or they take them away, basically.
So I think they did a good job at sparing her in the movie, but I'm just more curious as to like how they brought up her character. By the way, or like how they gave her a personality.
This line right here that she just said about Earth, it's a real shithole. That's the realest line in the whole movie.
Yeah. And then, oh my God,
that is Ben Mendelsohn, and then we're gonna get the Clark Gregg here as Phil Coulson.
Oh my God.
I know. Long time no see, Phil. Literally not. I mean, we saw him last week. One hilarious thing, I don't want to like sidetrack from your point here, but one hilarious thing I think Kevin Feige said to Anna Boden Reinfleck is that when they were using the de-aging, we really picked the two actors that needed the least, with Sam Jackson and Clark Gregg, because they have aged so beautifully. Yeah. Although that being said, that effect of de-aging, I don't think has looked better. This Sam Jackson is so fucking convincing.
Yeah.
Look at this. It's so good.
Honestly, like if I didn't know they used de-aging, I wouldn't have noticed at all. Like,
no, you would.
It is amazing. I like that. I don't know why. I just like that detail with Clark Gregg. They just like give him like a little bit more hair.
Yeah.
Just, like, have it like a bit puffed up.
Probably more hair than Clark Gregg ever had. He doesn't have much. But yeah, Coulson's always looked the same, it seems like, in that. But no, they both have aged wonderfully. And talking about Fury and Coulson, this is clearly an early period for them. This movie takes place in what year? 94, 95, around there? So this is early for them. We'll get into some S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff clearly here. But, that being said, look, Clark and Sam are always great with these characters. So it's always like great to see them pop up wherever they do. Really. And I it may have helped because Sam and Brie Larson had a pre-existing like friendship or they knew each other before this movie happened. So they had an easy rapport that was like that translated directly to the chemistry that they have. And I think it's good. There are some interesting similarities there between this relationship that Sam Jackson and Brie Larson have with Coulson and Daisy on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which Peter brought up. So that's some interesting dynamics going on there. This scene is kind of really fun. This whole sequence here, the chase sequence with the cars and the train. This was maybe one of the films of Marvel that they've done recently where they filmed on location the most. So they were able to film inside that actual train, at least the interior parts of it. So there's a lot of in this movie that you can tell was kind of made by indie filmmakers, which, you know, Anna Boden and Run Fleck are. They really tried to keep the scale of the movie limited. Here is Stan Lee, everybody, giving us a wonderful smile there.
He's reading a Mallrats script.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a post Kevin Smith made when the movie came out, and he was just talking about how much he cried when they first told him about it, how much he cried when he saw the scene and everything, and just crying throughout the entire time. It was a pretty proud moment for him.
Yeah. By the way,
cool.
This right here, this is so funny.
I love
this
the trailer when it first came out.
I know.
Everyone was just like, she had an old lady?
I mean, clearly it was a fucking scar. There were people that actually believed that they were hitting an old woman, but
I know.
I mean, real people. That's to say nothing of the fact that there are these characters in this setting here. They're seeing that this old woman is going toe to toe with Brie Larson, and they don't think that's weird, and they pull Brie Larson away from her.
Oh, I mean, it's a weird situation because she punches the old lady, and they're like, "What the heck? Why'd you punch her?" But then they see that the old lady she can kick some ass. So then now they're like, "Should we back away? Should we help her or anything?" So honestly, if people complain about this scene of what other people were doing, honestly, you are thinking way too much into this. Okay, you know.
I'm sorry. It's in line with that kind of humor where it's just so ridiculous but so hilarious. I mean, you hit an old lady. That was so funny. I'm sorry. It was. No one really got hurt. That's the point. Yeah. But I mean, it's just, it's funny because you just don't expect it to happen. You know, that's the joke, people. Also, one quick note here from the commentary track. The sound design for the scrolls transforming was mainly based off squid and octopus and the sounds that they make when they camouflage.
Oh, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So just a little bit of, stuff here. What were you saying before we got to Coulson? I feel you kind of distracted us.
I can't remember.
Okay.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, this happens.
No, I can't remember.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. Maybe it'll occur to us. But yeah, it was so nice to see Clark Gregg back in the movies.
Mm-hmm. Even though it was a short time, but
that's I did when it was announced, I did think he would have a bigger role. In fact, I really wished, because Clark Gregg is awesome and I love Phil Coulson. I mean, clearly you and I both do. It's I think a little bit more Coulson would have been fun. I was surprised to see a lot of, people in the media who aren't necessarily big Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans, who were saying when the movie was being made or when it came out that, it really would have been nice to have included Ming-Na Wen in there. Just a little bit of a nod to the show or something, at least in that one scene. Maybe not an actual role, but whatever.
I don't know. Because this would be before.
Well, yeah, but they've known.
Cavalry
it's
moment?
Established in the show that they knew each other since the Academy.
Yeah, true.
So at this point, they would be maybe not friends, but they would be familiar with each other. This is pretty graphic here. I will say it is a little jarring to see Nick Fury with two eyes. I don't know why. I'm just so used to the eye patch.
I guess.
I don't know. I mean, it is Sam Jackson, but it's a Marvel movie and he's not wearing the eye patch. It's a little get with it a little bit here. But Yeah, so another part of it, and we've already, got a little taste of it with the whole like blockbuster reference here. The movie is very much self-indulgent with the 90s references. Given that this is a 90s era movie, I understand it. I do, but this is why the movie kind of has no style of its own, because like you get like the constant sense that Captain Marvel is really borrowing things and stylistic choices from every other Marvel movie and kind of putting it together. Like a little bit of the humor I get from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the space stuff feels like Guardians, the also the fact that they're using, and a lot of Marvel movies do this, and I wish that they would be a little bit more, I wish that they would not use this for almost every single movie, but the use of songs, and of course, the whole 90s thing, and we're playing with 90s songs here. Like, it just constantly feels like this movie is just borrowing from every Marvel movie, which, you know what, isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it wouldn't be as glaring if your character, I think, was written well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, go ahead, David.
Well, I was going to mention that last scene that just passed, where she steals the bike. Mm-hmm. Did you see that deleted scene?
I think I did. Remind me, what was it again?
Well, basically, like, the dude's hitting on her, and
yes,
he tells her, like, oh, why don't you give me a little smile and all that, and then she just, like, grabs his hand and starts, like, burning it, I guess, like, using her power on it. It's just, I just remember, like, that stirred up, like, a lot of debate on that scene, just being like, wow. Yeah, just some dudes being like, wow, she's a total asshole, and like, why would they write something like that? Yeah.
You know what? They should have kept it in. It would have given us a little bit more personality moments. That was fun. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, oh God. Let's save that to the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the credits. We'll talk about the sexist attacks that this movie got, but I don't want to go there yet. Let's just treat this as an actual film and critique it accordingly. This shot here of the scroll, the dead scroll, being autopsied and on the table, this is according to Ryan Fleck, was they were borrowing this image from evidently one of the popular comic books, and it featured this shot of a scroll on a autopsy table. So, yeah. Good moment here for Kalos. Talos, sorry, not Kalos. Talos. One of the things that I was actually here's another 90s song. Here we are. And again, I guess they don't bother me. It just comes off like, yeah, we're doing this again. Okay. All right, whatever. So with Talos, I was so happy to see that like 90%, if not 95% of Talos is with Ben Mendelsohn in the makeup. Because I was so like, I'm also so unbelievably annoyed when we have like big budget movies that have the budget, but we only see them in like the actual like effect work or makeup with like half the time, if that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that they stuck with it. And yeah. Oh, I should also have mentioned this. This actor that we're seeing right here, he was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. back in season 1. He was that criminal that was led out by John Garrett, and he was kind of the sociopath that wanted to stalk the cellist, which was one of Coulson's former love interests. This is from way back in season 1. And on top of that, the scene beforehand with Nick Fury and Talos, that doctor that was there that was giving the autopsy, he was also on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This was back in season 3, I think, when they were trying to infiltrate the ATCU and see if there was actually a cure for the Inhumans. And his interactions were limited with Bobby and Hunter. So, Yeah, I'm a massive Shield nerd. Just if you didn't know that, so I can pick up these references pretty easily. So some weird. Of course, they weren't intentional. These are actors getting work, but it's just curious here to see them back on screen together. Also, they established here pretty early that only Nick's friends call him Fury, and that no one calls him by his first name. I am curious to see it going back. I didn't listen for it, but I wonder if that is true, that no one else ever calls him Nick in any of the other Avengers movies. Who does call him Nick, and this may back this up right here, is Alexander Pierce. Always calls him Nick. Never calls him Fury.
Oh.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure no one's ever called him Nick. I mean, besides that character you just mentioned, but
and Talos later on he'll call him Nicholas.
Oh yeah,
which gives it away.
Nicholas,
yeah. Who calls him Nicholas? I love this right here, where he asks like, "How is that supposed to prove anything?"
Yeah.
So like there are moments in the movie that on a humor level I think work, and I would have loved to have seen more of it because these two I think are good.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So like, and if you're gonna make the movie with them, I don't know. I just feel it's very like, it's very surface level. We don't really get into either of them all that well. I buy the relationship. I just wish we'd seen more of it. You know, these two together, and yeah. Yeah, I had a thought and then it went away. But those are cool glasses he has on right there. One of the other issues that I've noticed, and I was about, my thought came back. Hey, how's that? Here's kind of a double-sided blade. Sorry, words hard. I appreciate that, 22 movies in to the MCU, that every once in a while we can have a Marvel movie that aims for a smaller scale, that doesn't have to be like, like it's a big cataclysmic event and it's the end of the world and blah, 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 blah. Kind of the Ant-Man approach. We have it's pretty much isolated to more or less a single location. Now, it can get tricky considering that while most of the movie is on Earth, we are talking about a superhero that, hops back and forth from space, and she deflects warheads and destroys, spaceships. And so that can get a little dicey when you're trying to commit to that. But just because... And I feel like I think Peter points this out quite often, just because you're going for a smaller scale movie doesn't mean that your movie has to feel small. And that's one of the issues with Captain Marvel, is that the story, and for what the ground that is covered, feels fairly small. Especially if you're sandwiching this between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. And... to me, and I would probably wager to a lot of people, the movie was relatively insignificant. If, of course, you were looking at this as part of a larger, cohesive cinematic universe piece, but then also as a film, there's not much here to kind of, I think, warrant your attention. At the end of the day, it's nice, it's good, but as a film... It really aims for the middle and stays there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get what you mean. And I mean, I feel like probably some of part of the problem was because they just really needed a movie between those, between Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how.
By the way, there was another one.
Process.
There was one other one that was in between those movies, which was Ant-Man and the Womp Womp, which we all forget.
Oh, yeah.
Which also, a similar problem with Ant-Man and the Womp Womp was that it also felt very small and insignificant.
Which, I mean, it is kind of important for the cinematic universe because
The
of
quantum
the whole,
realm?
quantum realm
Yeah.
and all that. So I feel like they should have put more of their efforts on that instead of Captain Marvel.
Right.
You know?
If the cinematic universe is your priority, right? Of course, I will
Mhm.
say, like, you don't really need to watch that movie. All you got to watch is that post-credit scene, and that's all you need. That literally is all
That's
you
true,
need.
too.
So, like, and I think that's a fail because I feel that the priority should be to make a good movie. And you don't make a good
Mhm.
movie by just like, we'll try a little bit here, but it doesn't matter as much. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like,
Uh,
it feels like these movies kind of got short shifted. By the way, this is a fun sequence here with watching fucking Nick Fury play with tape, and
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
and
I was
this
gonna mention that.
this exactly. So this moment here where he gets so excited to use his tape thing again, and then she just blasts through the door, and then the look on his face where he says, "You just let me play with tape." You see, that works. That lands. I love
Yeah,
that humor.
it's like it's just a really good scene. Just again because like you got some pretty good chemistry between the two of them, and it's like watch it play with tape. But I like her comment too. It's just like it seemed like you were having fun or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I like that comment.
Also,
that she
for
made,
in
too.
cinematic universe references, this Project Pegasus facility ends up being in the same location as at the beginning of the Avengers film where the Tesseract is being held in. So, a little bit of continuity there, if that's what you're interested for. Continue, David. What you were saying about what was it, Carol?
No, it was just that was just a funny scene between them.
No,
But also about this thing though, this kind of is a bit of it's a cool scene, but also kind of a disappointment. So, like I said before, they didn't really play a lot of like how she feels like she's messed up whenever she loses control of her emotions or anything like that. And then right here, you like find out a bit more about. She finds out a bit more about her, and you have this great scene where this is where she really is trying to control her emotions and all that. And I feel like this scene, we should kind of be heartbroken about it. But I mean, I do like feel something for her. Like, wow, she figured out something about her past. But we should feel more heartbroken because she wants to like cry or whatever it is. She wants to feel something, but it just ultimately fails. And
yeah, it's an interesting thing where Brie is doing a good job here with what she's being given to do in this moment of her breaking, but then also holding it back. I think is moving as far as like an acting standpoint, but from a character standpoint, you don't feel as much as you could because these moments are just so rarely utilized and so spaced out in between all the rest of the movie. The character in and of itself is in many ways suffering from every single creative decision from the directors and the writers. The plot, as it was conceived, making this like the whole mystery element, like it really hurt the character, and it really hurt the movie overall. It's just one of those things where you have such little time, you're so late in the game, and at the end of the day, ultimately, this is just failing every step of the way to make Brie Larson's Carol Danvers land as a character, much less a personality. You're left wondering, there are glimpses of her that are interesting, but you don't really know her. And it's an issue that continues to happen again and again, kind of every step in the movie. And there are moments that, man, this should really hit harder, but they don't, because the script and the plot mechanizations that are this whole mystery, memories being erased for half of the movie, are hurting everything. And also this right here, it's like you get glimpses in the few stuff.
We should have gotten more of that.
What happened?
We should have gotten more scenes like that of her keep constantly telling her to like control her emotions.
Yeah.
Especially doing that battle in the beginning.
Yeah. But they're in the movie together like so little they barely have a relationship, much less a dynamic.
Yeah.
And so again, another example of like it may be hitting the right notes, but it's just not landing because we're back and forth between, you know, the stuff going on Earth and then this other space thing going on here, which kind of an interesting, you know, side discussion going on here. So Lawson, otherwise known as Marvell, played by Annette Bening here, was developing light speed in a way that had not been utilized before or at how it is. Also in a way that we haven't seen any other ship do in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So this takes place 94, 95. We've seen spaceships in the Guardians movies, which is like 20 years later by all indications, and they're still using the whole like jump points. They may have made more, I guess, hyperspace jump points in terms of how, you know, they have the octagon shaped portals that they jump through to get from like system to system or whatever. But what Lawson or Marvell, what they developed at the end of the movie, they legitimately, they don't even use the octagon, hexagon, whatever portals. They just literally jump into light speed, like if it was Star Wars. And so that was an interesting play on the technology and not something I'd seen anywhere else in this, you know, extended universe. And I wonder what happened to it if they had just kept it for themselves. One of the things, I know we're getting sidetracked here, but I just want to bring this up. This is kind of, you know, a little fascinating for me in this universe. We know that in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, when they do a jump to a different system in the seasons where they were in space, they use a wormhole kind of hyperspace where they pretty much jump in instantly to where their location is. So it's just fascinating to see these different methods for traveling, I guess, in the speed of light in this cinematic universe. You know, the differences that we have. Yeah. This is funny. See, there are moments here that work, but it could be more than just funny moments every now and then. That's the issue. We're going to have a moment right now with Coulson letting Carol and Fury go.
Yeah. No, this part's great. I really like it.
And it's so Coulson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At this point, he doesn't really have much of a relationship with Fury, but he trusts him, and he knows that he should trust him, and he lets him go.
Yep. I wonder if, like, again, or not again, if people didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and see this scene, I wonder what they thought. I mean,
you mean like if they just saw him in the movies? Well, this is the first time they would have seen Clark Gregg since what? The Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like 6 years in between the Avengers and Captain Marvel. So if they don't watch the show, which, I mean, if we're being honest, it seems like a lot of them didn't watch it. So
yeah, true. Because I mean, it's just that for us, it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's like one of the beginnings of their trust,
right,
and like the beginnings of their relationship.
It's a nice origin moment.
For like, yeah.
Which, that's another thing we should talk about, right? So this is a origin story of sorts, if not entirely, which we need to discuss that. So here's an interesting tidbit that I found. That, I mean, I think you and I would care about this the most because we're big fans of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? Which if you haven't seen, you should see. 7 seasons. Hey, go check it out. So we're seeing right now Nick Fury and Carol Danvers in the interior cockpit of this quadjet, I think as they call it. Anna Boden said in the commentary that they're using the exact same set that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. used for all of their Quinjet scenes. So that cockpit, at least, the back is VFX, but the front of it is the same one, the exact same thing that they used for all those S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes. So
that's cool.
yeah. So nice little bit of a nod there in some way. Also, like, whose idea was it to, okay, at the end of the movie, it's revealed that, is it Carol's middle name Avenger? Or that's her middle name?
Yeah, like her nickname.
Avenger.
Yeah, Carol Avenger Danvers, I think.
Was that in the comics, or was it just like, whatever? Was that for this movie that this came out of nowhere?
I think it was just for the movie.
Okay.
I don't think it was in the comics at all.
Yeah, I didn't like that moment.
Really?
No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I know this is like at the end of it, but let me tell you why I didn't like it. Because it felt not for how it was used per se, but it's just so indicative of like the same kind of issues that are in prequels, where we're making the prequels after the originals and we want to have connections to the originals, but we may inadvertently create some kind of inconsistencies, and it may feel shoehorned in where it didn't need to be. I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, who cares where the Avengers name came from? I don't care about that. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with it. I just feel like, considering that this movie had, let's just say, a healthy amount of deficiencies, it didn't necessarily play well, especially if it's like the last thing in the movie. It just felt really forced to me. Like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, the idea of it is fine. It's nice. It doesn't get me upset. It doesn't get me angry. It reminds me of like what every prequel does. And it's like, oh yeah, it's that thing we gotta do to make it fit with the universe or whatever. Whatever. If you like it, it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's just a nitpick.
Yeah.
And again, not for the universe, but because prequels always feel the need to do this, and I would wish that they didn't have to do it. You know?
Yeah, I get it.
And so here we have Lashana Lynch. By the way, there are other, like, they kind of like threw this away years ago. I know Kyle pointed it out that, you know, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and, well, I pointed out to him that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and other Marvel movies had long ago kind of retconned this. But if you look at Iron Man, you know, a lot of Clark Gregg's screen time is, you know, trying to come up with a new acronym for the Strategic Homeland Intervention Logistics Division, which is what he would use the whole name as. And then like, but S.H.I.E.L.D. clearly has been there for the name itself has existed. Fury himself just said official S.H.I.E.L.D. activity in this movie earlier on. So it's a retcon, but I feel like this movie didn't retcon anything. It's long ago been done away with. So
yeah.
It is funny though. And that happens when you like have like, what happened?
I forgot about that in the first Iron Man movie, that he would actually say the whole name.
Yeah. See, this to me is one of the best parts of the movie. Because, and this is where I will give them credit, where they do give time to just have some actors just take care of a scene together. Especially these two.
Yeah.
I think that this is actually one of the best acted scenes in any Marvel movie. Just from an acting standpoint. Wow. Really. I mean, again, I should care more about this, right? Yeah. Because in an ideal situation, there would have been a lot of heavy lifting with character work to where I would like say that. But because it isn't, it could be construed as one of the more forgettable ones from like a substantial, you know, point of view. But I'm just saying, like, from a technical point of view, in terms of how, you know, they work as actors, I think it's it moves me. I'm not gonna lie. Like this whole thing of Monica having lost her friend for 6 years, she just shows up again on her doorstep, and these two are having an emotional experience that gets to me. So I think on that level, that's why I feel like it works really well. Not that it's like one of the best scenes in all the MCU, but I'm saying one of the best acted scenes from a technical standpoint for me, anyway. And again, just trying to show that the movie has a lot of criticisms that we're obviously going over, but there are, I think, parts that shine through in spite of all of the deficiencies, shall we say.
The parts that shine through are the ones that are the characters that get more personality.
Which is crazy when you think about how the script was, let's just have less personality.
To the main character, really.
Yeah.
It
that
sucks.
Was such a mistake.
Clearly they can do it.
Yep.
So, oh man.
What a mistake.
Yeah.
Because you see from this moment that, Brie can definitely deliver.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But, Also, and this would be an interesting side commentary, but I would feel, and I appreciate the dynamic that, Carol and Monica have, and of course, Monica's daughter. But wouldn't this have been like one of those instances where, I don't know, just to give a little bit more representation, especially if this is the direction you're going to go with Carol anyway, create an inclusive LGBT relationship with these two? Because it would work, considering you wouldn't really have to change much anything at all. They clearly do love each other. They really didn't need much shifting around. And if you wanted to, give an audience that rarely gets seen on the screen any kind of shout out, this could have been it. This could have been one of those moments. And speaking of that, and this is hilarious and an unfortunate reality, because we had talked about, how African Americans are portrayed in a different aspect last week when we did the commentary for The Princess and the Frog, and how in animation a lot of black characters are changed into something else for most of the movie. Well, and this has been kind of the common trope for the last, I think, 2 decades, where you have the black best friend here. And that continues, that literally continues to be the thing. And it happens in a lot of Marvel movies, if you think about it. You have, Rhodey, the best friend of Tony. You have, what's his name? Sam Wilson, played by Anthony Mackie, who is, best friends with Cap. You have here Monica Rambeau, best friends to the white main characters. So, again, this is not exclusive to this one movie. It's just more of a criticism of Hollywood, maybe Marvel Studios at large, that this continues to be the thing. And also, this also could contribute to why this feels like every Marvel movie that we've ever seen, because it just continues to rehash the same faces, shall we say. What has that ever occurred to you in this movie?
No. I mean, I don't really pay attention to stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I
don't, unless I'm watching it on repeat viewings. I notice it more when I see a trend. When you're seeing it again and again, it kind of becomes hard to unsee. Like what we just mentioned, when you have black characters in animation that kind of get sidelined and they end up looking a different color for most of the movie. Like that's rooted in something, and Yeah,
I get you.
Young lady. You see, I love Mendelsohn. I really do. But I'm, call me crazy. I think this part of the movie where they kind of all come together, I think, like right here, you're at. Am I supposed to guess what that is? And they both like your ass. I think this stuff really clicks. Maybe just from the humor.
Yeah.
But they're this is good. I like this.
No, I mean, I like the kind of the beginning of this scene where she opens the door and it's her friend's neighbor, and she's just looking at him like really intensely. She think not sure if it's a squirrel or not, and then he just comes in. I think he's like drinking a shake and all that.
Yeah.
Like, where'd you get that?
I know.
It's it's a really funny sequence throughout the whole thing, and then we just missed it, but he sees the cat. It's just, and I love his reactions every single time. Like, oh my goodness.
I know. You have no idea what the fuck that thing is. Yeah, that Flurkin, and it's hilarious. Although I do wonder what the hell happened to him. You know, we never see him again. It's not a normal cat, so he wouldn't die. I mean, whatever. This is also funny too, the whole loading thing.
Yeah.
When everyone's like
all intense.
What's going on? Yeah.
No, I kind of like to think the cat, Fury kept it.
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, clearly he did. I would assume to this very day. Who knows?
Yeah. I hope there's like a scene in the future
with those two
movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there will be a Captain Marvel too, right? So, hopefully.
Yeah, but I mean, hopefully it's out in space.
Yeah.
The entire time.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I feel like
it is pointing in that direction, so that at least is encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, for the love of God, Captain Marvel 2 doesn't have to be set in Earth. It does not. Don't.
Yeah. Especially like if you need a villain.
Yeah.
I feel like space is like a good option to take if you need like a really strong opponent.
Absolutely. So now we're seeing the memories come back in, and I mean, okay. Stuff is happening. We get the answers finally revealed. And, you know, it's acted well. It's directed well. It makes sense with what the story you're telling. But this is a good question for you, David. This scene where we get all these answers, was this really worth kind of kneecapping the movie with this mystery?
Like, what do you mean?
So this is the big reveal of what happened. We're about an hour and 7 minutes into the movie. A lot of Carol's issues with how she was perceived come from how she was written and directed to be kind of an empty void. This reveal, was it worth having done all of that? I'm saying that this scene, I'm asking you basically, is this scene worth all of the issues that were handed to Carol as a character?
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously you need that reveal of the villain and all that.
Yeah.
But I feel like you could have. Well, I think it's mostly the placement.
Yeah.
I feel like you could have made this reveal a whole lot sooner, a whole lot faster. We didn't need that black box thing or something. Like, we had a machine from the scrolls that can like look into her memory and all that.
Like the Chronicons.
It's like, again, if seriously, if they had made more scenes out in space, you could have all the sequences on Earth cut super, super short and like kind of build up like very fast. You know? So yeah. It's mostly just the placement of the reveal, really.
I completely agree. It also is. I think for this coming decade, I don't know. I feel like Captain Marvel, unfortunately, is an example of why maybe it's time to skip origin stories, because they just feel. Okay, now we need to get this out of the way with, and I mean, you can still do great origin stories and make them great, but I mean, I feel like all right, here's the origin. The Tesseract energy, the photon energy of the Tesseract gets blasted into her. Oh my god, that's another issue. Oh god. Where do I... Okay. If you're gonna do origin story films from now on, be cognizant of the fact that a lot of them are almost always the same, and do something new and interesting with it. I think what's a smart detail that we got out of the Batman, Matt Reeves' upcoming movie, is that it's skipping that altogether. And we're just starting off in the second year of his run as the Batman or whatever, Robert Pattinson. It just skipped that shit altogether. We've seen it enough times. Yeah. So I would consider reevaluating the necessity of a character's origin. In fact, we have the advantage of Disney Plus now, where if you want to tell that origin, do a 4-episode miniseries and do it there. There, done. We don't have to have the burden of doing this. Also, how does this work? So, the Tesseract didn't vaporize her? It flew in her?
I guess. I mean, yeah, it is weird. Because I was going to say, like, does the Tesseract evaporate people? But I just remembered Captain America. So, I don't know. I mean, we'll have to get like deep into the science of how it works, but you know.
Rest assured, Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck did not say how. I mean, they basically just said, yeah, she gets the powers, which is another issue. What exactly are her powers?
I don't know. Like, she has, like, it makes, like, Wanda, what's her name? Scarlet Witch?
Wanda Maximoff.
Yeah, her, like, she got her powers from the Mind Stone, so she can control things with her mind. That makes perfect sense. You know? So she gets her powers from the Space Stone, and, I mean, it will make sense that she can travel at light speed.
She can, and she does that. That makes sense. Okay. But she, okay.
But everything else, though, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, so it makes her invincible.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get to that aspect in a bit. So the powers make her invincible. And not only is it difficult to, I think, believe, but it also kind of... God, I hate to say it, but it just makes it uninteresting. Oh, so she can do anything. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then
it's just, it really was, there was no build up to like her full strength, you know? Like, as far as we knew so far, it was just she can shoot lasers out of her fists. And like, that would have been fine with me, especially since like, we know that it came from the Space Stone. Like, that's fine, whatever. It's hard to explain. But then, like, you see her fly, and then she can, like, is indestructible. She can breathe in space. And then, you know, you see her in an Endgame, and she can take a hit from Thanos while everyone else gets knocked the fuck out.
The only way she could have been knocked back is with the aid of an Infinity Stone, which was the Power Stone. That was the only way that she was able to even, like, be put back in some way. I mean...
Yeah.
First of all, another good acted scene here. I love Lashana Bree's good, and Ben Mendelsohn, through that makeup, that performance is landing, very much so. So this is a good scene too. But no, look, that also brings up another problem with it. Just is becoming clear that there was no thought put into by anybody at Marvel, much less the directors or Kevin Feige, about what exactly her powers should be. They just, it's like they looked up a comic book. Okay, those are her powers. We'll just copy that and put it there. But...
And they really, it's really going to screw them over in the future Marvel movies, because it's like, she's going to save the day in the next Avengers movie. And like, I mean, unless they just want to go, I mean, I wouldn't mind this, but if Captain Marvel 2, they just go, fuck it, let's get rid of her powers. Go for it, honestly. or at least do something to power her down.
There are ways going
Nope.
forward where they can remedy a lot of these issues, no question about it. But as far as how, this movie is concerned, I have it right here. Directly from the commentary. I was, listening for it, but I never got it. And I wrote here that there was no mention of any kind of limitations to her power set. At no point do they discuss about why she has these powers or how she can be limited. And that is going to...
Yeah.
Not only is it going to be a problem in the future, it's going to be a problem immediately when you're trying to create a movie with characters and with stakes around a character who's invincible.
Yeah.
I mean, Superman works because there's kryptonite. So they need to find their version of kryptonite. Unless that's part of the plan, but it's not established here. And I feel that sense of ambiguity to what her powers are also contribute to people just being ambiguous about Carol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's quite a number of issues. Again, as we say, where the movie is quite enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. One thing, we already skipped through it, but that scene where the reveal of Talos telling her like, "Oh, we needed your help to save our people" and all that. Do you remember when I told you that was supposed to be the storyline for Dark Phoenix?
I no, but you just mentioned it, and I'm like, oh, that's right. I never saw Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
I think you enjoyed it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Although it was,
I saw it and I reviewed it.
Yeah.
No, but it's just I remember hearing that apparently that story was supposed to be so what's her name? Jean gets the Phoenix Force, and these aliens come to Earth and are like, "We need the power that you have to save our people." And it's like, oh my god. And it sucks because they had to change it because of this movie. And I'm like, oh my god, 20th Century Fox, like, you should have gone with it. Like, you could have made a such better movie.
What do you have to lose? Like Trump says, what do you have to lose? I mean, literally, like, what did it matter at that point?
Yeah.
Why did you waste that money?
Especially,
who cares?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just every time I see this movie now, I'm just gonna think of Dark Phoenix because wow, I was really disappointed by that.
Since you mentioned it, that I feel is simultaneously an asset of the film, and that also an example of where it also fell short. So Talos' entire story and the reveal of, juxtapose that with Mar-Vell, who comes to the realization that she was part of this shameful war, that the Kree are the ones that are exterminating the Skrulls just because. That is an interesting idea for a movie. Unfortunately, that's not what this movie is about at all.
Yeah.
And I feel it could have been. And it could have had something substantive and substantial to say about the times or whatever as they do. Especially with that kind of a war where you have these refugees who are trying to find a new home because they're being chased away, for xenophobic purposes. And of course, when we were in the few shots that we saw of Hala, the Kree Empire capital, there were these, propaganda posters and everything. And the Kree are quite vicious, as it seems like here. There's so much there. And it's just reduced to, like, barely anything in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the sequels talk about it more. I don't know. I mean, I doubt it now because I just remember the home. What was it? Far From Home.
Yeah.
After credits.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I don't know.
So Far From Home sets up
doubt
that they may be doing Sword, obviously post Endgame. Well, I mean that's just kind of like the tragedy here is that you have this wonderful idea for a film, that the inner complexities of war and all of this stuff between the Kree and the Skrulls, and the movie ends with Carol promising to find a new home for them, and I get. You almost get the impression that, oh yeah, we'll see that in part 2. No, it happened. We did it. We found them a new place. Now we'll jump ahead 20 years into the future. Now we have a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
What a waste of potential! Yeah. What a complete waste of potential! Because by the time we get to Guardians of the Galaxy, the Kree, I guess, more or less have calmed the fuck down because they're signing a treaty with the Nova Corps. And Ronan, who's also in this movie, one of the extremists, I guess, of like the old Kree ways, is against it. So like all of that. What a disappointment. That's when the movie ended, I'm like, you know what? That's the story. That's the movie I want to see. And I guess we just never will.
Yeah. Also, we just missed a really funny sequence of them asking Talos how his powers work. He's just like, oh, well, it just takes a little bit of practice and, dare I say, some talent. Yeah. And then it's like, can you turn into a cat? It's like, what's a cat?
I'm getting such whiplash with this commentary because at the same time, while I'm like kind of savaging the creative decisions behind this movie, I get sucked into a moment that I actually love. Mm-hmm. This is really weird.
Also, this part right here, like, it's a really nice moment with Talos reuniting
with his family.
His family. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we should have seen this part coming, but this is the full realization of, to quote the end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, of what he's fighting for.
Yeah.
Like how I worked that in there? See what I did there?
That was good. That was honestly good.
Basically, it's the same kind of reveal here. Oh, and there's the Tesseract. Who would have seen that coming?
People were complaining about this, how it kind of retcons somehow.
What?
I don't know, because they were saying like, no, who was it? Tony Stark's dad? Like, he had the Tesseract last. How did it end up with this scientist?
That's easy. Howard Stark was a founding member of S.H.I.E.L.D. He had it in his possession. He helped find S.H.I.E.L.D. after the SSR with Peggy Carter. And it became part of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s vault. And it was used for experiments. Mm-hmm. And Pegasus is affiliated with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. And
at this point,
Lawson was the only one who can like figure out how it works, or like she must have done something to prove herself
at S.H.I.E.L.D.
that she can experiment with it. Because clearly Howard didn't know what the fuck to do with it. I think he might have like locked it up.
I don't remember what he did with it exactly. He may have used it for some kind of invention, but we got to keep in mind Howard's been long dead at this point. In fact, well, not necessarily long dead. He died in 91, right? December 16th, 1991. Is that the date where Winter Soldier murdered Tony's parents? Yeah, I was there. So he's been dead for a few years now.
So then she's the only one smart enough to work
basically.
With it. So yeah, there's no retcon. What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, I feel like the answers are quite there.
I mean, we kind of have to like work around it, but it's there if you think about it.
It's what happens when you make prequels. You automatically are like trying to like question certain things. Does this add up with everything else?
Mm.
This realization with Carol, just understanding now that her entire like existence as a Kree was a lie and that she herself was the villain here. Because it is quite brutal, because I mean we don't really get an explanation as to why the Kree hate the Skrulls. They just are xenophobic assholes and they're exterminating them. I think that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Dude, that makeup is so fucking good. I don't know how many times I've said that at this point, but it is amazing.
Even from his family, like the way they react to finally meeting and everything.
Yeah. It's like some of the best stuff I've seen in sci-fi. I mean, yeah, I wish we could make stuff in TV looks this good, but it never. It's
if only.
I know.
Oh no, the bad guys. Also, I love the mystery of the cat. Like everyone knows like what that cat is, and we're all just like, it's just a cat. What are you?
Are the only ones not aware of what that cat is? Is it just Rambo and Fury?
And
Star Force?
Carol.
Oh, I think Carol knows that it's a Flurkin, doesn't she?
No, she doesn't. She like carries it around like it's a cat. She doesn't really bother what it is. But I remember like when they're locking him up, I think it was that guy's he says something like, "Oh, lock it up," and
Jude Law,
like, don't get near or something like that. Yeah, Jude Law's character, he's like, "Lock it up, don't touch it," or anything like that, like freaking out almost.
I don't know. I remember reading somewhere that the Flurkin, the reason why what's his name, Goose, eats the Tesseract is Flurkins are attracted to whatever energy readings that the Tesseract has.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at some point Carol recognizes that, and that's why she says that give the Tesseract to Goose. Doesn't she say that?
Well, I think she sees it, doesn't it? Eating the Tesseract or eating someone.
Oh, okay. So maybe she realized after then. Okay.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
By the way, Annette Bening looks amazing in that jacket. That's a great fucking jacket. I mean, let's just be real. Giving credit where credit is due. And I do love her uniform. Carol.
Oh, yeah. No, it looks really nice. I don't...
Like the costume's great. It really is. And they never really fail. Oh, another bit of continuity purposes if you want to look at them there. So Carol has this implant that inhibits her powers. Remember, Daisy had one given also by Kree, the Cassius family, I think in season 5. Almost in the exact same area, I feel. Although it's a different version of it, but it does the exact same thing where it inhibits her powers.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly enough, right now we have Carol who is hooked up to the Supreme Intelligence. Daisy doesn't have any interaction with the Supreme Intelligence, but when she meets with the older Cassius in the future past, the end of season 5, Tarion, Cassius' father, we're led to believe that she's there with him, but in fact, it's kind of like a virtual framework, like we're seeing right now with Marvel. With the Supreme Intelligence and with Carol. We also see that in S.H.I.E.L.D. with Daisy and that Kree. So, continuity pieces that are there if you want to string them together or not.
That's cool.
So this sequence here.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting from this sequence is, so Carol's character is a person who never gives up. She gets knocked back and she always gets back up.
Yeah.
Okay. I got that. Is that all she is? Is
Like,
that her?
just
I mean, I
someone-
guess that's her defining character trait, and clearly that's kind of what's being shown here in this montage of different like moments of her life, where, you know, regardless of the hits that she takes, she always gets back up, and I appreciate that as well. But I guess what I'm saying is I like the idea, but for whatever reason, it's just not landing with me as much as it should. Do you get that way?
Yeah, it's because they're not talking about her controlling her emotions. Again, like they bring that up in the beginning. They don't do much with it throughout the movie, and then just throw in this thing of like, oh, she always gets back up. You know? Like it's not like like the message is there, but it's not consistent in how they show it and how they build up to it. You know? Like this would have been cool if they showed moments of her past where her emotions got her in trouble. Kind of, it's like Yo-Yo from Agents of Shield. Like she, you know how she always like goes head first into a situation and it always ends up badly with her. Like her flashback was she went to get the necklace because it was important for her, but that ended up, well, who was it? Her uncle getting killed. And then she went head first to Ruby. She killed her, and it's just like now she regrets it and everything. And so that's what Captain Marvel should have done. It's like, yeah, her emotions always gets her in trouble, but like she'll always go head first into trouble to save anyone. That could have been so much better, honestly.
Yeah.
Guys, go watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They do a much better job at their character development.
I mean, absolutely they do, especially in consideration. I mean, when you're comparing this and that. I like this glowing effect.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I like it. I think it's a light show, but it's a fun light show. It reminds me of the Super Saiyans from Dragon Ball.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think that's what everyone was saying.
I feel like that was like this,
like, especially here, because her hair is literally.
I know. It's like I guess like I like her powers from a visual standpoint. I just wish that there was.
You see? She did it.
Okay.
They had no idea they did that, and they're all just like, "What the fuck?"
I don't know. What was I saying? What Shield? Development character. It's better off there. I mean, we're comparing a TV show to a movie, but most movies are able to do it just fine. Yeah. And there was it wasn't a priority here. So, do you want to talk about this sequence here? Is this the one you were talking about? Because they put on, what's the Gwen Stefani band? No Doubt. They play "I'm Just a Girl."
It wasn't this scene, but I mean,
oh, it wasn't.
But no, it wasn't. It's later on. We're almost there. Okay. But no, I remember the people complaining about this scene too, because it just like randomly puts in a song that has the lyrics "I'm just a girl," and you know it beats you over the head like what it's trying to do. And I would have been fine with it if, you know, they had like a jukebox in that scene and someone hits it. And then there is. I know, but nobody hits it. Like, it's right there. They literally hit it, and if it started there, I would have been fine with it.
Didn't they?
But no. Huh. It just randomly starts.
Yeah,
like
okay.
I still like the sequence, mind you. It's like it works well with the music and all that. but it just didn't really transition correctly. It's also it is a cool action sequence though too.
It
Like
is.
you really see how differently she fights with her full strength now.
Do you ever get the sense though that like, I mean, I guess it's fine at this point, but do you ever get the sense that like that brawl she's having is like a fair fight? Like, I feel like at some point she maybe is just she's beginning to realize how powerful she is as the sequence progresses.
I think it is a fair fight because again, this is just like the beginnings of her like showing her full strength, and like I feel like you do see a progression throughout the fight. So like when she first like starts shooting, now she gets like taken back a bit, like almost like flies off because of her lasers.
Yeah. So I feel like she's beginning to understand her skills at that point.
And then the last shot you saw of her, like she was using her lasers to her advantage, basically like giving herself flips, some dodging and all that. So yeah, I think it was still a fair fight, especially like who was she up against? Like 8 people?
Yeah.
Also, the other thing that they like didn't really go into much was like the horrors of war, I guess.
Yeah.
Because when Talos sees his family, he gets he talks to Kara and goes like, "Hey, I've dirtied my hands throughout this whole thing, but you know, you did something good, and so let's just like enjoy this," or something like that. I can't remember.
Well, they don't go into it because it's just not. It's not what the movie's concerned with.
It's just I bring it up though because I also I like that scene where Talos kills some of the Kree, but he tells like his wife to like cover his kid's eyes.
Yeah.
So he doesn't see what he's doing. Doesn't have to see death or anything like that.
This I saw this thing coming, and it got me pissed off in the theater because I was like, "Fuck you." The character in this that I really like, and you shoot him in the back. I was glad he didn't die. Oh my god, I would have been so fucking pissed if he died. Because I was enjoying him so much.
Yeah.
Assholes.
Minerva.
Her.
Isn't that Harry Potter characters?
Minerva. I don't know any of their names. The only one we know is Karath, who we see later with Ronan in the Guardians movie. That's it.
I actually like that they put this scene. We got to see like Carol's friends like skills, I guess. With the jet.
I like it too, for that reason. And here's another reason why though it feels a little lackluster. How many times have we seen this same sequence now in Marvel? Because like this sequence here of Minerva, whatever that character's name is chasing Carol's friends. Literally, it reminds me of the same chase sequence from Black Panther, where we have Martin Freeman Remember him, Martin Freeman? He plays a role in the climax where he gets in one of the, I guess, the Bugatti spaceships, whatever they're called, in Wakanda, and he has to fly to the gate or whatever, and then he's being chased by 3 of Killmonger's people. It reminds, and the fact that it happened the year before this, it just felt like a recycled sequence. I mean, it works for Monica Rambeau's character. It's a good moment for the purposes of this film. But if you're talking about, the series of films that is Marvel, unfortunately, this felt like a recycled sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot
Which is
that.
a reoccurring problem, I think, in general with this movie. With, it's reoccurring, or shall we say, a lot of the elements that make this a Marvel movie are, for all intents and purposes, recycled. So you're right, it's a good sequence. It's just the same one we've seen.
Yeah, we even talked about Ronan. Did we talk about Ronan being in this
Barely.
movie?
I think I mentioned him once.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so here's a bunch of warheads that will completely annihilate the planet, and she deflects them. Again, great moment for the movie, for her character. But she is fucking indestructible.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus fuck.
Like, we literally just saw her trying to control her blast like 5 seconds ago. And then she does this. It's kind of like, holy shit. I guess it's still so cool though. Like, I love it.
And she's literally taking out every gunship, and then she's about to destroy a spaceship. And hey, at this point, that's her signature move, is she destroys spaceships. Cool.
Yeah.
But again, this moment right there where she's just having fun and letting loose and like flying in space, it's great for her. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like the music.
No,
It's
the
pretty
music
cool.
is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was the composer, at least as it was described in the commentary, was introducing a lot of synths throughout the movie. I do like the theme, Captain Marvel's theme anyway.
Yeah.
So I wish it was used more. Also, I'm confused. What is this teasing?
I thought I was gonna tease like the sequel, and it still takes place
Right?
like maybe early 2000s.
But I guess that goes nowhere.
So this is the part that I was talking about. How like a lot of people complain about
They
this.
do?
And
What?
yeah.
What? This?
Well, I kind of have to agree with them, but this kind of goes back a little bit to the misogyny of it all. So right here, it's really cool what he's
Which we haven't touched yet for a very good reason.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it'll be brief, but like Jude Law, he says like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you, but you're not gonna feel complete until you beat me hand to hand and all that." And like story wise and like character wise, that's great, But I like what they did with this. It just kind of like interrupts him, and she says like, "I don't have to prove anything to you." Like, what the fuck? And now it's still a bit of a disappointment though, this scene, because it wasn't built up right. I feel like, what was it? What did I say earlier? But it wasn't built up right, because it could have been a great scene where he just keeps putting her down more and more in the beginning of the movie, but they didn't do anything that, and so that's why it's a bit of a disappointment. The scene, it's still funny, when she blasts him and like it just interrupts him and all that, but yeah. And but what I like about the scene though more is because a lot of women that reviewed this movie, at least the ones that I've seen, they all said the same thing. It's like they loved it because it reminds them of times when men would interrupt them for something, and it's just kind of like the little fuck him.
And that's why I think it works at all. It's because of that, not from the character stuff, because it clearly isn't there at all. But the subtext. I think this is one of the moments where the subtext of it actually works. If you're comparing, if you're gonna compare the moments where the movie decides to use Carol's gender as part of building her character, this was one of the more successful uses of it, because this definitely landed where she beat his ass. He was definitely trying to like talk her into going easy on him. That way he can get the better of her. And then, she blasts him away. And then she says, I have nothing to prove to you.
Yeah. Also, though, like Jude Law saying that, it's like, oh, you're never gonna, like, it's like, you're never gonna be your best unless you beat me hand to hand. And again, in story-wise, character-wise, that's cool. But the thing, though, is that Jude Law's character was being a little bitch in that moment. And so, like, her interrupting him was the best thing.
Yeah, fuck him. I mean, clearly. So I don't understand, unless you're already, you hate Brie Larson, you hate Carol, then you obviously hate that moment because it was her moment. I think that's clearly the perspective that's coming from. I guess, another one of the subtext that there, so Carol is told, as a lot of women are, we mentioned in the beginning of the movie, to keep her emotions in check. And then it was because of her emotions that she was able to unleash her true ability. And you could say that the movie is trying to land a message of, this is what happens when women are able to break free from the cages that particularly older men put on them. And I suppose that's clear enough. I just wish there would have been more of it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that it lands, if it does land with particularly women who have gone through that. So I am happy that on that level it resonated with that demographic.
What'd you think of the scene where Fury got scratched by the cat?
I don't care. I literally don't give a fuck. Okay, sure, that was fun. I didn't really react much to it in the theater. I mean, I don't really care either way. It's okay. It's cool. I feel about it the same way I feel about the whole Avenger name reveal. Like, okay, sure. What about you?
No, I laughed about it. I thought it was just funny because, even though people were kind of like guessing that before the movie even came out, like you saw a bunch of memes about it. It's like, it's that scene in Winter Soldier where he's like, last time I trusted a friend, I lost an eye. It's the cat, and I'm like, oh my god. I hope that happened.
That, when I saw that assembly on the internet, that made me laugh, because when you see that scene, he's so serious. Last time I trusted somebody, I lost an eye. And then you cut to this scene and it's like, fuck.
No, yeah, but again, some people complain about it just because like they like the mystery behind like what happened to his eye. They also liked how badass it was, but to me, it's still kind of badass. Like, I'm not gonna look at the Winter Soldier again and like be like, you lost it because of a cat. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Especially because I like that he uses the eye as an intimidation tactic, but also like, that's they're saying in Winter Soldier where he like uses a retinal scan, but like his bad eye to scan it. I still think that I'm still gonna find that badass because it's like he outsmarted someone by like using his bad eye to keep his secrets,
Yeah. We also just missed a moment here, that scene in the kitchen where they're washing dishes, Carol and Nick. And apparently, because I caught this in the commentary, I didn't I know when I saw this movie, I didn't really understand, okay, why is the superhero called Captain Marvel? We never hear anybody in the movie call her Captain Marvel. We do in Far From Home, where Peter Parker refers to her as Captain Marvel. But how did she embrace that name? It's not in the movie, but apparently from the commentary, she took the name from, I guess, her hero, Marvel?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean, I was that obvious? I didn't get it, apparently.
No, yeah, I kind of got it. Like, it was a kind of a weird scene, but like, yeah, she mentions like, yeah, Marvel or something like that. No, it was Fear. He goes Marvel. It's like, how does that make sense? It's
Well,
like,
he says Marvel because there was this.
She changes the name to Marvel, and he kind of makes like a little joke of like the Marvelettes.
They were a singing
like
group. Yeah.
It seemed like a very throwaway line or sequence or scene.
I guess to me, what I didn't get from that was like, I'm going to honor Marvel and take her name as my superhero name or whatever. I guess whatever. It's a minor thing. I that wasn't perfectly made clear to me. Just on that moment.
I'll say that scene and where you see like what was Carol Avenger
Danvers.
Whatever. Danvers. It should have been like, I don't know, the Marvelous Danvers or something. Or I don't know. Just something with Marvel instead of like Avenger. Again, I don't really care that her nickname was Avenger, but I bet it would have been a better sequence to Avenger show her name there.
Well, that's right. She was a captain in the Air Force. That's why I was like, where does the captain come from? Okay. See, I forget that part about her character because I feel like it becomes an afterthought at that point. I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's just a little bit. I feel like that the movie should have ended with Carol flying off because that's her movie, but then we end with Fury, and it's like that would have been a nice post-credit scene. I mean, we've had movies.
I thought it was actually.
You what?
I thought it was a post-credit
Was
scene.
it? I thought this was. Maybe I'm wrong. Because this is the credits that we're seeing right now, not the post.
Yeah. So. No. I thought that scene where you see the Avenger name, I thought that was a post-credit scene. I completely forgot that it was the ending of the movie. I forgot what the post-credit scenes were actually. It was Endgame.
One of them was Endgame, and the other. Well, we'll see them right now. Let me see here. The last thing I have here is based on what I wrote, and this may be a reiteration of what I've already been saying, but just to get this out of the way with. So, since Carol's character was written to be almost entirely devoid of personality, I can only assume that's pretty much all the direction Brie Larson got. Thus, why she appeared exactly as intended, almost entirely devoid of personality, which left a giant chasm where the hero's identity normally is placed. The sense of knowing who this person is. So, and I feel like it's more, I feel, I feel like this is just, they dropped the ball on this character in a place where they really shouldn't have. Like, this is a really important movie because this is the first, like, they're 20 some whatever movies in, and this is the first movie that they're going to do with a female lead. And the impression is this movie was kind of rushed.
Mm-hmm.
It feels that way considering how little thought was put into a lot of these big questions that I think you and I have. And it didn't occur to the team making the movie. Also, this scene was directed by Joe Anthony Russo, which is why it's good. Just in case anybody, is questioning that. This is supposed to be, I think, part of Endgame. It was a deleted scene, and then they put it here.
Oh, wow.
I think. So, like, what happens is this happens, and then they tell her about what happened, and then she goes to find, I think, the Guardian's ship.
Mm-hmm. Captain Marvel will return in Avengers Endgame for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. So I guess this is the part where we should mention the ugly shit, huh? We got a few minutes left. We're in the credits here. We got like around, like 5-6-ish minutes left. Part of why it is so frustrating having a very critical outlook on this movie, and I think it's fair to assume a lot of people are of the mind that this was good, but it wasn't great. And I feel like a lot of the reasons that we pointed out illustrate that kind of, perfectly. But it's uncomfortable to have a viewpoint on this movie that is critical when, and the ugly, disgusting thing about it is, and ultimately why I was happy, all of us were happy it was successful, it was $1 billion movie, was because there were these group of people who I would qualify as the alt-right or neo-Nazis or misogynists, just plain old guys that have this resistance to strong female characters, and also people who hate Brie Larson because she's a feminist, which by that fact makes them not feminists, which is sexist. They were trying to sabotage the movie, and they were trying to hurt it because Brie Larson was advocating that not just white guys have jobs in the film industry. That's literally all that happened. And because of that, we had all of this hullabaloo about
screw Brie Larson, screw the movie, and all that. And it's like, I don't know, like
it's a lot.
Like so her saying that comment, like, it's like I don't want to hear criticisms from a bunch of white guys and all that, blah blah blah. Who gives a shit what she says? Like, like it's not that big a deal, honestly. Like, when has anyone ever really cared about what an actor says, like, outside of their movie? Like, I don't know.
What does it matter that Mark Hamill doesn't like his character arc in The Last Jedi? It's still great. A lot of us see it that way. Why would that matter to you? Like, you're right when it comes to that, that standpoint. It was just real. It's just ugly. I guess an added benefit of 2020 being canceled from the box office. Now, I say that with the fact that theaters won't be happening, but Wonder Woman and Black Widow are technically still scheduled to come out this year. Mulan will have a release on Disney Plus and also in theaters where they are playing theaters or where they don't have Disney Plus available. We've talked about that lately. And I guess the added benefit of them not, of this being a normal year is that we don't have to put up with them as much anymore. But it's just, it is becoming more and more visible and irritating, honestly, because movies like Captain Marvel should be celebrated because it is a sign that things are finally progressing. The fact that, after this and Wonder Woman that were very successful at the box office, finally proving that and also movies, whether it be Coco or Black Panther or Love, Simon or with other kinds of, inclusive leads of any community, it shows Crazy Rich Asians that you can put any kind of representation up on there and you can still make money.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a white guy. And that's what this is proving.
No, yeah. Yeah. No, it's like this whole conversation is all about representation. And, when they talk about like, we'll say like, oh, we want representation, we want representation. And the people who like, I guess the misogynistic people, they always want to go back to, oh, but you had Princess Leia, you had Ripley from Alien. How long ago was that? Like, can you please name
more
me
than
one
them? Name anybody more than those. Oh my God.
Name me 5 more between like whichever one came out last, so whether Alien or Star Wars, between that and Captain or Wonder Woman. Like, name me 5 at least. And then, I would shut up about representation. But if you can't, then this is important. Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel, Black Widow, and all that. Like, it's important. And yeah, there are some movies, they're trying to be show representation and they're just not good. We just ripped into this movie. Like, we think it's good. We enjoyed it, but there are a lot of problems with this movie. And I'm not trying to tell people like to not be overly critical or like nitpick the shit out of movies. Like, no, it's fine. But when you get that scene in this movie, Captain Marvel, where she shoots Jude Law's character, and like interrupting him and kind of avoiding that whole character arc of like, yeah, beat him hand to hand, like be the higher person in this situation. When you get a scene like that, it's not because they're trying to be funny or they're trying to prove a point of like women are stronger or anything like that. It's just the writer or whoever like came up with that decision. They're frustrated. Like they want scenes like this. They want to prove people that they can do more, that like people want to see more. And the fact that you see a scene like that and go, that was fucking stupid. Who made that decision? Who thinks this is great? Like, get rid of that whole bullshit out of my movies. You need to calm down. Like, please understand. People are frustrated that we don't get scenes like this, that we don't get representation. And representation, it's not that big of a deal for me, honestly. Like, I never got, I liked Superman, I liked Spider-Man. I was never like, oh, I can't be them because they're white and all that. No. But it is pretty important for some people. Like, you just gotta let them have it, whether it's good or not.
It's funny you said about, calmly asking for, these guys to calm down. Ain't it a bitch that, women have carried the burden of being stereotyped as overly emotional, and yet there's nothing more emotional than an angry white guy having a meltdown. when it comes to, I mean, anything in general, but especially when it comes to, I guess, movies with female leads. Like, it is like, oh my God. I could not agree with more with what you just said. I mean, that is exactly right. And, part of the reason why the movies haven't been made is, the studios themselves, and even I think Marvel Studios also lays the blame with, Captain Marvel shouldn't have been their first female lead. They had Natasha Romanoff, you had Scarlett Johansson, she can sell a movie. What happened? And now you're going to have a Black Widow movie, but it's a prequel. All right. Well, why didn't you? And it's supposed to be like after Civil War. Why didn't you just have that after Civil War? What took so long? I mean, I don't think it was because she wasn't popular. There's a reason why Captain Marvel, 20-some movies into this franchise, was the first female lead.
Yeah.
Ask yourself those questions. Why it took that long.
Yeah, and I was gonna say something else. I guess it kind of ties to like the whole virtue signaling type of thing. Like when you get scenes like that, if like some writer, again, this also ties back to the whole frustrating thing. When you see like a movie or show, and let's say like it's about racism, like, hey, don't be racist, stupid people, and all that, and like how they always say like, oh, but it needs to be subtle or anything, or it can't be like in your face. It doesn't really matter how they do it. Like I get it. If you make it kind of subtle, like let's say the whole racism thing, like Zootopia, it's not really. It's trying to be subtle, but really it's in your face what the heck this movie's about. Like, yes, when they do it like that, it's great and all. But when you get other movies that like beat it in your head to not be racist, guess what? There's still racist people out there. Like, it doesn't matter how a writer shows their message. Not everyone is listening. And so it's just, again, it goes back to the frustration thing. Like
the general rule, it is not a good look especially if you're a white guy. Let's just be real. It's not a good look if you are complaining that there's too much politics in the movie. And like, it needs to be clear. A lot of outlets don't, make it clear. It is blatantly obvious that the reason why they don't like the politics of the movie is because it is against their personal politics. Because they're not, their personal politics is not for advocating for more inclusion. And that's the reality. They don't see a need for that. They don't see a necessity for that. Those who do have an ideology of some sort, right? And so they don't believe in that, and they don't think they just think it's a bunch of liberals, hippy-dippy liberals who are, promoting propaganda that doesn't exist. All right. They're delusional. So then there's no sense in reasoning with them. And then on the other hand, you have some people who are not political at all, but just they've been, I guess, convinced by others that movies shouldn't have to be shoehorning politics into a story. And that, I feel, is another kind of ridiculous criticism, because every movie has politics. Everything. Yeah. Politics is in our society, whether we see it there or not. And a lot of politics inspire the stories that you see. Look at Captain Marvel. It wasn't just what they would call the loud and proud female stuff. It was barely there, but there was the whole like war that was going on with the Skrull and the Kree. There's a lot of really complex intergalactic politics there. The movie didn't explore them at all, but they were mentioned, and that's part of it. So is that going to be accused of like shoving anti-war politics down your throat. I mean, it's just a stupid conversation. And like that I think what bothers me is, why does it bother people? Why is it like think about The Last Jedi when there's a moment where Rose points out the war profiteering going on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And people get mad at that?
The biggest one that bothers me is Knives Out. That scene where the family is talking about
Trump?
Them talking about people should come here illegally and all that, and it's like get rid of like the illegal immigrants and all that, like that, and they hear that and they straight away go, wow, he's trying to like tell us not to be he's shoving politics into this movie, and he's talking about how he hates Trump and everything. But that's not what the point of the scene was, though. Like, it was completely ridiculous. Oh my god. I was gonna say something else, but I forgot.
It's enraging. That's what you forgot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Whenever people say like, don't shove politics into things, that's such a childish like thought. I remember once I saw a video, and that this guy he's reviewing a show, and the character in the show had like a T-shirt on that said like diversity rocks or something like that. It was weird shirt, and his reaction was, no, don't do that. Like that's literally a childish reaction of like how kids would ew, no, girls aren't allowed here or anything like that. It's like, no, politics isn't allowed here. It's so ridiculous.
It's also just hurtful and damaging because that becomes a discourse and it becomes controversial. A lot of outlets, are talked into not having a conversation of right or wrong. There is this particular show that I follow that because of coronavirus, there is more and more politics because of the nature of when and how movie theaters can or are even allowed to open, whether or not you should go. And he always, threads a thin line of, he always says this, regardless of right or wrong, regardless of whether or not you think it's right or wrong. And I feel like at that point, you've already lost. You've lost me because you're giving credence to a group of people who are insane. Let's just be real right now. I didn't want to bring this here, but numbers were released just this week. This is the end of August in 2020. And 75% of Republicans polled are perfectly okay with the fact that 176,000 people have died from coronavirus. They also don't care about Black lives. They also are for a complete shutdown of all Muslims entering the country. And now they're even electing QAnon, the conspiracy organization, into Congress. These people are insane. Why should they be listened to?
Yeah.
And it's dangerous when outlets have to frame it, well, regardless of right or wrong, because they don't want to like piss off some crazy nut jobs they have following them. So I refuse to let at least our show fall into that category. I'm telling you what I think. But I have a strong confidence in myself that what I think in terms of where we are right now as a country, in terms of a certain group of people in this country being completely out of their fucking minds, I think that's very much true. And I think a lot of you agree with that as well. Because we're seeing it on a daily fucking basis. When you have people who are literally flipping, and by the way, God bless you. You're doing the essential work as it is, and you haven't been attacked. But every day, I feel like I'm reading a story of people flipping out. And there was a story I was reading today about this woman that was attacking people with pepper spray because she was asked to wear a mask. That's the level of intelligence that we're working with here. A lot of these people have said that they're not going to take a vaccine if and when there is a vaccine for coronavirus. So keep in mind, a lot of these people fall into this category of either being crazy, stupid, or ignorant. And I don't care if that's offensive to say. It may be, but it's the fucking truth. And that's how I feel about it. This country is a failed state. And in large part because America and Americans are incompetent.
Mm-hmm. And just to go back to people who review these movies and like put in their misogynistic views, I see a lot that they always try to say like, oh, we're not misogynistic, we like female leads, and they always go back to, again, Leia and Ripley, that they like those characters and all. It doesn't help them that they complain about every single other thing though that involves women. One of the worst ones I saw was people reviewing the show Batwoman. And the show's bad. I'll say that. It's not that great. It's horrible cinematography. Very, you can tell that the crew members are being lazy somehow in that show. But when you spend like 5 minutes going, can you believe that they had 6 lesbians in an episode? Like, when you just keep going on and on about that, it doesn't help your image at all. You know that, right? How can you say shit like that and complain that people see you as misogynistic? It makes absolutely no sense. And this isn't not me saying that you shouldn't nitpick on movies. You shouldn't be overly critical on movies. No, that's fine. But when you say shit like that, no one's going to listen to you. And the people are just going to see the bad things in you.
Oh my God. Really? Someone did that?
They said that. Yes. Oh my God. And then the other one, and this one guy, it's the same thing. Like, don't put politics, or don't put, like, he doesn't want representation, I guess, in certain things. He'll literally said this in a video, that whenever someone like asks him about putting more representation in movies or television, again, specifically movies or television, he'll tell them, if you want representation, go outside your front door. There's representation everywhere else.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, that's just a base level misunderstanding of the power of cinema. That's just and it is also just so privileged, because I'm sure he is used to seeing himself be represented on screen all the time. And you just, I mean, that all just goes back to a complete lack of empathy. The failure to see yourself in somebody else's shoes, because you don't care. Just be honest. You don't give a fuck. At least then we can lose all respect for you. Just be honest, and then we can all, as a society, leave you behind. That's what I would prefer.
Yeah.
You know? If you're a piece of shit, just say it. Just do it. Because like that and I know that really upsets me. It really does. It suggests it's proof of the privilege you have, but it also is just proof that you have no empathy whatsoever. And you know, they say that we don't deserve the president that's in the White House right now, but you see the stories that come out of this country every day and you think to yourself, maybe we do. Maybe this is exactly the person that reflects who the American is now. I don't want to believe that's true. I think most people aren't not that way at all. And it may just be a case where it's a very loud minority, but the point is made, though. If Mulan, Wonder Woman, and Black Widow came out as they were scheduled to in a regularly like cinematic theater year, there's no question in my mind, and I know you think the same way as well, that we would have been encountering these exact same situations over again.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen with Mulan.
Yeah.
Once it comes out,
and that also adds in a racial component as well. So it's not just the sexist, but then also the racists too. So
yeah,
this is why we left this for the end, because it's just it's a whole discussion, and it is what it is, to quote President Trump. That being said, though, overall, I think we've made our feelings on Captain Marvel pretty clear. It's one of those interesting cases where we do overall enjoy the movie, but there are substantial problems. But it's not something that I hate. So it's an interesting, because there are moments in the movie that I think are actually pretty good. So, and I think I speak for both you and I. So, there it is. Thank you all for listening to this commentary. I encourage you all to listen to the other MCU commentaries we've done this year and last year. I believe that David and I are going to come back and do a commentary for Spider-Man Far From Home in the next few weeks or so. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, we have reviews on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which we also would encourage you to watch because it is phenomenal. It really is. And we have an upcoming miniseries on The Legend of Korra. 4-part episodes here on Red Spotlight. Catch us every Thursday and Sunday. And Sunday, I should say, under our big red spotlight. And until next time, bye-bye.